Morning, everybody. I'm so excited to talk to you today about this kind of hot topic. It's going to be a little saucy and also a little confusing. We're talking about screen time today. Before I get into it, I'm going to tell you a funny story. So, it's like funny, not funny, but anyway, here it is. So, when I was little, maybe like 8 or 9, there's this funny story that my siblings, I have 2 older brothers, a younger sister, we still recount to this day. So we only had one TV growing up, like most people in the 80s. And I come home from my friend's house one day and I see our only TV at the corner of like the property where the garbage gets picked up. And the entire TV screen is smashed in, like a big hole. My 14-year-old son is sitting beside me snickering. I think you've heard this one. So I'm like, what happened to the TV? Because me and my brothers, we love this TV. We, looked forward to TV after school. My mom motivated us to clean our rooms on Saturday mornings. Like we couldn't watch TV, Saturday morning cartoons, which is what I grew up on, until our rooms were clean and inspected and all that. So like TV was a really big deal in our life growing up. It was the only, screen we had at the time, and it was highly entertaining. We all had shows that we liked. And the truth is we squabbled a lot. Looking back now from a mom's perspective, now that I'm in my 40s and I have children of the same age, I have almost 11 children. I understand children's, battling for turns and enjoying different shows and entertainment and so on. Well, I got the backstory pretty quickly and it turned out my mom flipped. Like she just flipped. And I hold no grudges against her. I think she could have handled it more differently. That being said, I guess the squabbling and fighting just got to this snapping point, and she literally picked up one of my dad's tools, a hammer, and smashed it through the screen. Boom, that's it. Problem solved, right? I think we've all had that moment of frustration where we entertain, oh, I could solve this problem real quick, right? With our own screens and devices now, because like I said, in the 80s, like that tech, the tech we have today, iPads, iPhones, computer screen, like I'm talking to you on my laptop right now. All these screens didn't even exist yet. And now there's so many options. And there's Wi-Fi internet and there's social media. It's like tech overload. And as much as technology has brought us many opportunities, it's also presented as a parent so many challenges. And now that I'm in the hot seat as a parent, I'm having to figure this stuff out with my own kids. So today I'm going to share with you, kind of some tips and tricks when people say to me like, Tara, how do you do screen time at your house with almost 11 kids? Well, we've had to figure it out. And I didn't have this blueprint or a roadmap. And obviously just, freaking on my kids wasn't really a viable option if I felt kind of stressed out by sometimes the fighting for turns and wanting more instead of the addictive nature that comes, especially more for boys than girls, with screens and all of what that can mean. So let's get into it. First of all, I'm just going to share with you like my own, how we do it at my house, because everyone has a different approach. Some people choose to go no screen, low screen. Everyone's got their own approach. I'm not necessarily saying like this is the only way to do it. If you don't do it my way, then, here's your Christian parent report card, because I've been on the receiving end of that with some other moms in my life, and I've chosen to go another way. So I'm just going to share with you how we do it to give you some encouragement, maybe some food for thought, because I didn't have like a big family mom speaking to my life for most years growing up. Still really don't now, right? Figuring a lot of this stuff out by God's grace on it. So here it is. Here's how we do it at my house. So got some notes here. I want to make sure I get everything covered in our time together. So like I said, I have almost 11 children. And 5 of them are over the age of 11. So those would be like the 16 to 11-year-old, kind of the young adult, middle-aged children. Those are the only ones who really have access to any screen time, because younger than that, we don't like, other than like they watch some shows and we choose what DVDs or like streaming shows they might have at some allotted times. I'm going to talk more about these screens, okay? Those screens where they could play apps or they could access the internet. Those screens is what I'm focusing on today. We've decided to put a couple boundaries around how we're going to do this. Otherwise, it would set me up to freak out, right? With the fighting. My turn, more, because this is candy for your brain for the most part. Sometimes there's a time and a place, and we do incorporate a little bit of online research in our homeschooling, but I'm not talking about the like kind of like more valid reasons to be on the internet or doing on a screen. I'm talking about pure play. So like Saturday morning cartoons were the equivalent for me growing up. So at our house, like I said, we've got tons of options. We've got an iPad. My husband and I both have phones. We have a work phone that my daughter uses for virtual assistant work once a day. We have our personal computer. We have a laptop. And we even have like 2 handheld, they're called DSs, Nintendo DSs. I'm busy right now, buddy. I'll do that after. So we've got a lot of options. And I had to create some boundaries in a system where I was going to go kind of crazy and set myself up maybe to be like my mom and repeat history and take a hammer to the devices and be like, problem solved. So I'm not going to talk about social media accounts today. That's a whole other thing. So I'm going to get into that in a totally separate live, right? Because that's a whole other thing. So I've chosen to see screens as an opportunity rather than just the bane of my existence as a mom. I've chosen to see this as an opportunity to teach about technology because my kids are going to have technology, fast forward 20 years, that doesn't even exist today. And as much as we were like, oh my gosh, are they going to start implanting chips in our head and mark of the beast kind of stuff? God knows what's coming. And I see it as my opportunity to prepare them to like morally navigate whatever that looks like for them and to give them some really practical guidelines and boundaries on just the nature of screens, the nature of entertainment and recreation. There's a lot of stuff packed into screens that's more than just the screens themselves. So rather than just be frustrated and feel intruded upon, I've chosen to see this as an opportunity to teach. And that helps because then I'm more positive overall rather than just feeling like attacked and encroached upon by technology, especially screen technology. So here's the guidelines. First, safety first, right? Safety first, no apologies. That's the mama bear coming out. So we give no personal internet access to our children until they have earned it through maturity and responsibility. And in fact, we don't allow our children to own personal devices, PDs, that have internet capacity until they are full-blown adults. I'm talking like 18 to 20 years old. They're like, can I have a phone? No, until you're an adult. And it's not just the money, because some of my kids are making enough money. They could actually pay the monthly bill right now. It's not about the money. It's about the fact that the internet is the wild, wild west. There are no sheriffs out there, right? This is as serious as owning a gun because the damage that can come through having unfiltered, unfettered, unlimited access to the internet through the various devices I just listed off. You may have heard the horror stories yourself. I have seen it happen. How quickly and how easily children can be preyed upon, young adults can be preyed upon by pornography. It is the #1 most visited thing on the internet. I'm just going to be real, okay? And it's highly addictive. It's chemically addictive. That's a whole other talk, okay? We'll talk about that another day. But because I recognize this is the wild, wild west, I have no qualms about making safety limits. And that's where all my limits flow from that I'm going to share with you right now. First of all, I tell my kids, let's see it for what it is. This is candy, not meat, okay? So just like we have like candy on Friday nights at our house and occasional desserts, that's how we approach playtime on screens. It's candy. So it's not going to be regular fare. And I let my kids know because they're old enough to catch this concept, this analogy, just so they know, like, you don't ask mom for candy on demand. Mom, can I have candy? No. Can I have screen time whenever I want? No. So the first thing we do is we give time boundaries, and they're based on age. So for the littles who are under 10 years old, we might, like, they have a half an hour on a Saturday morning. That's it. Once a week, half an hour on Saturday morning, and they get to access like dad's phone or my phone under my direct supervision. And we set them up on like a little app like Color Island or something really no biggie, right? And I'm aware of the pop-ups. I'm watching what's going on. So that's what we do with the littles under 10. But over 11, what we've done is created a little chart where they can have some limited times on very limited devices, and they can only go to very limited locations. Boom, that's it, because this is candy, and it's candy in the wild, wild west. So let's just see it for what it is. So I let the kids know that's where I'm coming from with these boundaries. So it's not like mom is being, super strict for no reason. I'm like, no, mom loves you, and mom loves God, and mom is, expressing that love through these loving boundaries, because boundaries are good. Hey, there's the meme for the day, right? Boundaries are good. So what do my kids get? Well, they have a rotation, like I said, a couple times a week. The lessons have to be done for the day in our homeschool setting, and their chores as well, because like you don't get it automatically. It's a privilege. It's a treat, right? And just like if you don't eat your vegetables, then you're not having dessert. Same thing here. So we tie it to responsibility. We also, like I said, only parent approved spaces. So no chat, like no chat. And if there is a chat capacity, like chess.com, one of my sons likes to go to chess.com on his computer one time a week. He gets to go on the computer. Then we say, fine, you can do that, but no chatting with other players. Like whether you're playing with, other live players across the world, because he likes to build his chat skills, which is great. Then we just say, just no chatting with other people. And we've talked to them as they get older about why. Again, not to be scared, like, oh my gosh, there's this, a predator around every corner, but just to be real, and also to just talk about the addictive nature of screens, the fact that, what chat portals can become, and that if you want to have access to these screens, stay in the boundaries. That's it, right? Stay in the time, stay in the places, and we're good to go. That's it. Lastly, okay, so when it comes to the iPad, we have a folder on the iPad of pre-approved games. And my kids sometimes, like once a month, they'll make a game suggestion. I'll let them, like right now, my son right beside me, 14, and he's looking up some apps on the App Store. And he gets to choose 1 to 2 apps a month to try out. But I approve it. And they always have to be like 12 plus because, 17 years old and older on the App Store, in case you didn't know. Highly recommend against it. We're talking some pretty moral filth there, nudity, immodesty, gory violence, really horrific kind of stuff. So we just keep it in the 12 and under zone because there's tons to choose from. And on the DS, those little Nintendo DSs that have little chips you can put into them. Again, we only have a couple of pre-approved games. So this way, I have some parental control over this, right? Lastly, all games must be played, all screens, pardon me, whether it's a game or some research or you're ordering a book from the library in your allotted time in our little weekly schedule, it must be in full view of a parent or pretty much everybody. I don't let my kids kind of hover around each other very much and sort of watch each other on the screens, give them some privacy, but I have full transparency so I can see that screen. We've set up our computer that I can, at a glance, I can walk by. There's no private computers in the bedroom, no going to your own private space. They could take like the Nintendo DS on their 1 a week turn because like they can't go anywhere. There's no internet on that. And if I find out that's the case, then they'll, bring them downstairs. It's for their own safety and my sanity so that I don't flip out and freak out on them. So this is how we've approached screens kind of in a nutshell real quick. Lastly, there are consequences. If they choose to breach the boundaries when I made it so crystal clear, that's the first thing to go. And they can take a whole week off. And they, because they only get a few opportunities to do this and it's not on demand, it encourages them, it sort of incentivizes wise choices. And by and large, I have had no serious problems with the kids. Lastly, anything that's like an internet capable device is password protected. And we do have some parental controls insofar as we can do that. If you want to know what those are specifically, pop a comment below and I'll let you know kind of how we do parental controls on things like Google. But we do password protection. So if you don't have the password, you can't even get on, right? And even though it's a little more work for me to get up and type in the password for the computer, it allows me to clearly establish I set the limits until you're old enough to set the limits in a responsible, godly way for yourself, because that time will soon come. So listen, even still, I know that kids can show some distressing signs of screen addiction. There can be fighting, and that can be super stressful. Like it was stressful for my mom with one screen in the house. And what I've done is created 7 courses that are coming out just later this month called the Mom of Many Method, where I really dive into it a lot deeper than I can get into in like a 10, 15-minute live with you here. And one of those courses is called Boundaries in Communication. Really going to dive into it and touch on like what helps me be calm and clear and consistent with all boundary related topics. And really screens is a boundary issue. It would fall under that category. So if this is an area you're struggling in, you're like, Tara, this is good, but I need more. And not just in this area, but in other areas of my big family life, then this is a course you want to keep your eyes open for. It'll be dropping later this month. So just keep your eyes open for that. That could be a way to really help you establish healthy boundaries, be clear, calm, and consistent as a mom, and not resort to smashing hammers through things when you lose your mind over the frustration of having little to no boundaries and good communication. God bless my mom. Like I said, no hard feelings. So like I said, Screens are just part of technology. It's an opportunity to teach and prepare our children to make responsible choices as adults. And on one hand, I know some parents choose to give them no choices in this area, and to each their own. I don't have a really strong opinion about that. I leave that to other people's discretion. They know their own context, your own family, your own what makes sense for you right now. We've chosen to do some very limited access that they can earn, responsibility. Can they learn about the wild, wild west? Because before I know it, listen, my daughter got her driver's license over the weekend, and she's learning how to drive on a 15-passenger van. If I never let her try things with some, safety boundaries, we're not preparing her for life. So rather than give my kids all access or no access, we've given some. We've just made really clear boundaries. And then hopefully, by the grace of God, they will have wise, responsible foundations that transfer into their own lives and when they become adults and parents eventually themselves. So I know that if I can figure this stuff out, having no roadmap with all new tech that didn't exist when I was a kid, you can too, right? And then we don't have to smash hammers every time we don't know what else to do. So I hope this blessed you today. Went a little bit over time, but I know this is a big topic that a lot of moms struggle with. So I hope this blessed you. Drop a comment below and let me know how it did. If there's any other way that I can be of service to you, I am glad to do that. So God